A cow pooped on me once.
I'm gonna have to use that as the teaser right there. Having recently returned from Ireland and the Czech Republic, where she worked on a farm and in a restaurant, Fiona Kidd finds it easy to lay her hat where she lands. Today we're with Fiona Kidd. She's a friend of
Hello.
mine. Yeah, say hi.
Hi, everyone.
So basically, what we decided to do, this is actually our very first podcast, and what we're going to do is, as I told Fiona earlier, we're basically trying to dispel any kind of bad feelings about traveling. These days with CNN and all kinds of bad news happening in the world, we wanted to share our thoughts and stories about travel and how fun it is and how much you can learn from it. And so basically, I've asked Fiona to be my first guest because she's obviously, as you will tell, she's full of energy and has all kinds of great stories. And so take it away, Fiona, if you got anything good to tell us. First of all, why don't you tell us what would be probably your favorite location that you've ever been to and why?
Okay, well, I guess it was a while ago now, I got back from Ireland and the Czech Republic, and this has probably been my favorite trip for those two locations. Well, Ireland, this was the first time I'd ever gone, and it's beautiful. I have an Irish passport, so that made things a lot easier. But yeah, I've always wanted to go. And the Czech Republic, I've gone a couple times, and there's this little town called Český Krumlov there, and I I'm so in love with that place. I keep going back.
So tell me, is there a member of your family that's Irish, or how did you end up with an Irish passport?
Yeah, so me mom, she was born in Dublin. So I have like my grandparents are from Ireland, and my other one parent is from Dublin and the other parent's from England, and grew up in New Brunswick of all places. And anyway, uh yeah, so that's how I was able to get the passport.
You weren't born in Ireland.
I was born in New Brunswick, Darling's Island. Shout out to Darling's Island, New
But
Brunswick.
when you're one of the few that has a passport to two different countries, you lucky person, you.
Yeah, yeah, it's awesome. I know I'm very lucky. I, I think that's very true. It was actually kind of funny going into Ireland. I was doing a workaway there, and going into Ireland, I told them I was in the lineup for uh, coming into the country, and I went non-EU passport holders. So like any other
Right.
country really, or countries. And anyway, I went into that line and I said what I was doing. I was kind of volunteering. They're like, "Well, you can't do that here." And I said, "Oh, well, would it help if I had an Irish passport?" And I pulled mine out. And the gentleman at the gate just goes, "Ah, you Egypt." And sent me along my way. Said it was fine. He was like, "You're in the wrong line."
So, what does Egypt mean? Is it PG? Can we say?
Yeah, we can say it. It's idiot.
Oh, okay. So,
That's how
oh,
the Irish say
right. So,
idiot.
idiot.
Egypt. Yeah.
That's
It's
awesome.
a very elongated E sound at the beginning. It's silly. They're funny over there. But yeah, that was really cool. And yeah, I guess those two places just because they're super fresh right now.
So tell me a story.
Tell you a story. Okay, do you want a funny story?
How did you end up in Ireland, and what was, say, one funny story from that?
Okay. Okay. Well, in Ireland, I just wanted to go. I booked a one-way ticket for the 1st of May, and then I just took off and quit my job and left. And anyway, I went to Ireland to work on a farm, and I did that for a month, which was really cool. Like, I lived 6 miles away from the closest, like, tiny pub. It wasn't even a town. I think it was just a pub and a church. And so,
It's really all you need, I guess.
yeah, and it was really isolated, and I love cows. Like cows are my favorite thing. And anyway, I worked there, and then I hopped on a bus to another workaway, and I was working in a hostel in that was in Kilkenny, outside of Kilkenny.
Now, when you say a workaway, some people might not be familiar with what a workaway is.
Oh, true. Sorry. So it's like a volunteer sort of situation where like you create an account and then you say what you'd be interested in doing. And I said working on a farm. And then these families or someone will take you in, and you get you usually get free board. That's like the bare minimum you get. And then sometimes, depending on what the job is, you'll get free food or free like transportation places. Really depends on the kind of work away.
So there's not usually an exchange of money per se. It's more
No, 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 no. It's more of a exchange of like your abilities and like and food and a roof over your head.
so you work for food and housing and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, and like the experience of living somewhere else. Because I don't think I could have traveled without kind of working through it.
Right. And so if you did need to go to town, how would you do that? Would somebody there be able to drive you into town, or how would
Yeah,
that
so I
work?
worked with a family, and they drove me into town or like drove me to the bus terminal, and I could hop on a bus. Like buses in uh Ireland or even all of Europe are just dumb inexpensive.
Yeah.
Like it would cost me $100 to go home to New Brunswick from here, but over there, like $100 would get me around the whole country in Ireland.
If not part of the continent. Yeah.
Yeah, over
Yeah.
to England even. Like yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's what a workaway is, and it was a really interesting experience doing that. And so anyway, I got another workaway and went from Kilkenny on the east coast to more inland to Cashel, where I worked as a housekeeper, just 2 hours a day, and I got free board, and I had the weekends off, which was awesome.
Was this in a private home?
This was in a hostel, so
Oh, okay.
and they also had a bed and breakfast, so like I don't know, hostels, the cheap version of a bed and breakfast, except you don't get breakfast.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway,
Wow.
but a funny story from that town is that I became very good friends with the owner. And the beautiful thing about hostels is being able to there are just different people coming in from all over. So I yeah, that was really cool. And I became friends with this guy from New Zealand. And anyway, we were good friends with the boss and everyone. And so this is where it felt the most Irish to me, and this is why I love this story. Is because we got a text on a Sunday from this gentleman, the owner, and it was about 10 a.m. We each like came into the kitchen and were like, "Did you get this text?" He said, "Come to," and he gave us an address and for a drink. And we were like, "It's 10 a.m." And in Ireland, they don't serve, and we're all like until noon, but we're also like, "It's 10 a.m." But I was leaving at noon that day. And so, anyway, this is just a really cool situation. We walk up to the address he gave us, and we walk in, and it's just a convenience store with this nice, tiny Irish woman who I don't like. She couldn't have been the size of my leg. And we asked for his name was PJ. We asked, like, PJ said he was meeting us here. She said, "Oh, okay, dear, let me help this customer." And then, sure enough, customer leaves. She says, "Oh, he's right through here," and just pushes on the back wall behind her. And this secret door behind, like, I don't know, the knickknacks or like chips behind her opens up into this back staircase. And
Like a speakeasy
yeah,
for Irish
exactly.
people.
Except it's just like, it was so silly. And I just wasn't expecting it. I don't know what I thought. But the funny part is that it was packed. But everyone,
Really?
yeah, it was packed with Irish and English people, and mostly men.
All getting their drink on.
Yeah, I think I was the only woman there.
Wow. Well, it is 10 a.m., women don't drink until at least noon.
Yeah, and I said, I thought you all were going to be at church. And they were like, we are. And I was like, okay. And it was just like, it was very funny just walking into that. And I don't know. And I looked at my New Zealand friend and we were just like, what is happening? What's going on? So, needless to say, I got the later bus.
Yeah.
Yeah, after that. Yeah.
So tell me more about these cows. Why are cows your favorite thing?
Oh, I guess growing up in New Brunswick, you just see so many of them, and I love cows. And I didn't realize how many cows would be in Ireland. And so I woke up and there was a field of 500 cows outside my window in the mornings, and it was amazing. But sorry, off topic of cows. Did you know that sheep have tails?
I never paid that much attention to them, so I don't really know. But you know what I saw today, and this is also off
What?
topic, but there was a little snippet on the news about some sheep pigs. They have pig faces, and but they're hairy like sheep, and apparently they're native to
No.
Hungary, and these were seen in England somewhere. I can't remember where now, but
What the heck?
both Monique and I were fascinated by these sheep pigs because they were
Well, I
best of
want
both
one
worlds.
now. Thank you.
Anyway, yeah. So
I want a sheep pig.
okay, so cows are sheep have tails, and pigs have wool.
Yeah, and we're all messed up. Um,
So it's really all about growing up. And for people who don't know, both Fiona and I are both from Canada, and New Brunswick is a province in Canada.
it's Eastern Canada there, bud.
Eastern, that's right, Eastern Canada, and they say we sound funny, but
The
I don't think we do.
Maritimes. I don't know.
Yeah.
Other people sound funnier to me.
Okay, so you do a couple of workaways in
Yeah.
Irish land in Ireland, and
Yeah, well, sorry, just one cow topic thing is that the New Zealand person who I met at the hostel, I didn't think I was going to get to see that much of Ireland, but he worked with cows. And since he worked with cows and was from New Zealand, he knew how to drive on the side of the road. Because in Canada, what we drive on the right side, and over in Ireland, they drive in the left.
right,
And but he was able to take me to the Cliffs of Moher, and like just meeting someone through a hostel setting. And that's going to be what I preach about traveling is go to a hostel and meet people. Because he also got me to milk my first cow.
I would agree with that. I've stayed in some hostels in my time, and they're pretty amazing. And yes, there are certain hostels that aren't very clean, and you end up being 20 in a room and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it's a great way to meet people, especially if you're traveling alone and just want to meet up with some people. It helps you feel safer. Some people might know the area better than you do. There's all kinds of benefits to it. If you're traveling with a partner, it's not necessarily the best way to go.
No, usually Airbnb or something is pretty good for
Or if you
that.
get into your middle ages like I do, you like to have your own private space, but
Yeah.
otherwise it's not bad.
Yeah. So anyway, after Ireland, I don't know, a lot happened there, but I only spent a month in Ireland, or 5 weeks, I think. I got a message on Facebook from someone in the Czech Republic who I know and said, "You're in Europe and you're not coming to the Czech Republic? What the heck?" So I booked a uh, uh, a 10-day trip was my plan to Český Krumlov, this little bohemian town which looks like a fairy tale.
And where is it in reference to Prague? Some people might be familiar with where Prague is.
Yeah, Prague is probably, I think it's like I'd say it's a 3-hour bus ride south of Prague.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is it
so
like inland or is it on a lake somewhere? Or?
no, it's pretty inland. Like, uh, yeah, you just go straight down and, yeah, Český Krumlov. It's beautiful, and it's by Lake Lipno, which was the Iron Curtain between, I think, Austria and the Czech Republic during the Iron
Okay.
Curtain. I don't
Okay.
know if that gives any reference. So anyway, I only meant to go for 10 days, and that was a crazy day because like getting over there even was nuts because I got a flight into the northern part of London. This is to get over to Prague. And so to get into London at like 8 a.m. Luckily, I had a friend there who lives in London, and I was like, "Can I leave my bag with you for 10 days? I'll just take out my ukulele because I brought a ukulele with me and just stuff a bunch of clothes into my ukulele case so I don't have to check a bag on my next flight because that costs money." And luckily, they said sure. And I had to get down to the south of London from another airport to fly out at 5.
Is this because they're the local cheap airlines? You had to go to a different airport.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like to make it the cheapest travel experience for myself, I had to do that, and it was cool being in London. But I don't know, London is very big.
Yes.
I love it. I love it dearly. And I went back eventually and spent some more time there. But at first, it's a little overwhelming, especially like you hear stuff from the news. But once you like dive in, and I was able to experience the culture and having someone show me around, it was really great.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that it's the same thing happened to us when we were in Germany. That just having somebody to help you out, even for a day, to show you around, and just so you don't have to deal with the logistics for one day out of your trip, it's really helpful. Not to mention, spending some time with friends is really nice. So,
Yeah, it's really nice to have someone show you around. And I mean, it's impressive how friendly people are when you're traveling. I don't know if you're just like a good-natured person or like you just try and strike up a conversation with someone who's a local. It's I found it hard pressed to find someone who wouldn't give me like just a little bit of advice if they could.
well, I think it's funny because the same thing happens here that you're not necessarily friendly to your next door neighbor here. But the second that you know that somebody is not from here, you're much more likely to help them.
Yeah,
Which is
yeah.
sad in a way, but I mean it's a fact of life. So it's the same thing anywhere really. People want to represent their country and their city in a
Hmm.
friendly way. So it really helps. I think.
Oh, I agree. Sorry, back to Chesky Krumlov. I got on a plane and I I got in at midnight into Prague, and my I was getting a shuttle actually to Chesky Krumlov this time, and from the airport. So you can order a shuttle service from this one town because it's just a very popular town to go to. I mean, it's just beautiful. So I was able to get a shuttle, but that wasn't until 8 a.m. So I had to spend it in the Prague airport where the security guards just kind of like it's a very strange experience because you kind of feel safe because they have like these guns on them, but like they were so like there was no threat at the Prague airport. It was fine, but that was something that was a little striking to me traveling, just seeing just the different ways that like you don't really see that.
Right. You just had your backpack and whatnot with you.
Yeah, I just had my backpack and ukulele case and my purse, and yeah, and so anyway, I slept in the airport or tried to for a while. And then I got my shuttle down, and I had been there 2 years prior studying Baroque theater in this town through Dalhousie. So that's why I knew to go back, and I had friends there. So anyway, I hadn't been there for more than probably half an hour, and I'd gone to my favorite restaurant, just went straight there to meet my friend. And the restaurant owner who remembered me and I've been in contact with offered me a job. He was like, "You want a summer job?" And I was like, "Sure."
Did you work there previously, or you just frequented there before, and he remembered you from?
Yeah, he remembered me, and yeah, I was there for a month before, like last time I went to study, and I think almost every day I went to that restaurant because I was a vegetarian at the time, and you find yourself in the middle of Bohemia, there's not a lot of vegetarian options.
Right.
And so,
Yeah, they're very meat and vegetable and potato kind of people.
yeah, and like bread,
Yeah,
yeah, sauerkraut, sausages.
all the good
And
stuff.
oh my gosh, I'm glad I wasn't a vegetarian the second time I was there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was there a lot, and he remembered me, and he needed someone else to work there. And I had always kind of joked with him last time. I was like, well, if you ever need someone to work for you, let me know. And sure enough, yeah, I showed up and he was like, I need someone else. You want to work here? And yeah, I did.
Did you end up learning any of the language, or
Yeah, I
I
can.
imagine most people that were there either spoke English or
Yeah,
French, and you probably know both, I would assume.
yeah. Actually, not that much French there,
No?
interestingly enough. A lot of it was like German, and there were a lot of uh, Asian tourists, actually. That was like the bulk of our business at work, actually. The day trips were like people from Japan and China and Korea and all parts of India. Yeah, it's a very hard language, the Czech language. Like, I can ask for one soup, please.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Jedna polevka, prosím.
I remember Prosim.
So I could, yeah,
And I remember hello and
yeah,
goodbye. That's about it.
yeah, dobrý den, naschledanou. It's a weird language, but it's a lot of fun to say.
Really, you didn't need to know the language, really. So
Again, I stayed at a hostel for half of this in like a 15-person room.
really,
Living out of my ukulele case, I eventually went to a secondhand shop and bought some secondhand clothes because I was running out.
no, I know you're young, but did you ever feel like you just needed some time to be alone at times in that hostel?
Oh, absolutely. But that was like the perk of it was that the hostel was booked up on weekends. So that's when I would usually go and just crash at a friend's house.
Right.
And it's like a mixed dorm too, like it's guys and girls. And so, but you find your own way to like, you're kind of by yourself all the time, but surrounded by people. It's a strange thing traveling by yourself.
Yeah, I found that too. That sometimes people can. I mean, if you can put off that vibe that I just want to be alone right now, then people do tend to respect your privacy and whatnot in hostels.
Yeah. And like I did put that out sometimes but I mean this hostel I stayed at, it's called Hostel 99. And they also offered me a job, which was kind of cool. When I was leaving, they're like, "You sure you don't want to come back and just work here?" I was like, "No, I gotta get home, guys." But
Why did you have to come home? Did you have a tourist visa or something? Or?
no, just because like so my Irish passport allowed me to work in all of Europe because
Right.
it's not Brexit, right? Which is like just for London or the UK.
Right.
Yeah, so I just wanted to come home because I don't know, I missed my friends and my family, like, and my stuff.
Okay. So, was there anything funny, particularly funny, that happened in Czech Republic?
There were a lot of funny situations that happened, I suppose, but I felt like I knew a lot more.
I'm sure you have some drunk stories, though.
Oh,
Come
I
on,
mean,
this is Fiona I'm
do
talking
I? No, people can't know. Yeah, of course there are, and I'm sure they were very funny times. Well, I actually a funny story is I was staying in the hostel and I there were all these younger people coming in to stay, and there was this couple from Australia, and then there's this guy from New York, and another guy from Texas, I think. Don't remember. And then like another girl from Ottawa, actually, Ottawa, Canada, and then me. And we all decided to just like go out drinking one night, and we ended up there's a castle in Český Krumlov, and we ended up singing by the river to the castle, and we were playing it off someone's phone. We were singing a Bohemian Rhapsody on the top of their
in the middle of Bohemia.
in the middle of Bohemia. Exactly, that's why we were doing it. In Canada, you do that at like 4 in the morning and you're an asshole and the cops get called on you.
That's true.
But there, like, we just kept
It's
singing, and
celebrated.
Bohemian Rhapsody is a long song. And we were all just screaming it. And yeah, people walked by, and like some people would just join in. Like, it was a very strange situation.
One of the funny things that I don't know if it's funny necessarily, but one of the interesting things I always found about Europe is, in Canada we call ourselves a free country, and in the States they call
Mhm.
themselves a free country, but and without sounding negative, the amount of freedom you truly get when you're in Europe, that you can drink a beer on the street, or do whatever the heck you want as long as you're not
I
hurting
know.
anybody. It's
Exactly. I love that.
yeah, it's and I can't speak about any other places per se, but I really noticed that in Europe that
Yeah,
as long as you don't hurt anybody.
exactly. As long as you're not hurting anyone. And I don't know, I've been other places where I feel like it's okay to drink outside, but like, do I want to drink outside?
Right,
As long as
right.
you have your wits about you a little bit.
It's so much of a more social atmosphere too. I mean, for those who haven't gone, everybody walks between 6 and 8 o'clock at night. They go out after work, they have their cafe, whatever, they have their supper, their dinner, and then they go out for a walk down the downtown or wherever with their friends. You see kids in strollers out at 10 o'clock at night, and we'd never see that here. It's just an everyday thing there. It's
Or if we did see it here, we'd judge them for it
Yeah, like what are you
almost.
doing out with your kid at that time of night? Shouldn't you be in bed? And,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's a different culture. Yes, in a lot of ways it isn't, but like fundamentally we're not any different. But there's certain aspects to every culture that are just amazing to find
Yeah.
and to learn about.
Something I noticed actually in, well, Chesky Krumlov, especially, like, I became friends with a lot of the people who owned restaurants around there, and like people who worked in restaurants. They were all my pals. And like, it was completely fine to have a glass of prosecco at work when you start. And just like, when you start your shift, if you're working in a cafe or something, you have a glass of prosecco.
What's prosecco for those who don't know?
Oh, sorry, it's like it's champagne, sparkling white wine, but it's the Italian equivalent to champagne. And oh man, Czech people love their sparkling white wine. I don't know. And
Well, that's another thing with European culture. Like, you go on your lunch break for an hour, hour and a half, or whatever it is, and you almost always have a glass of wine or a beer with your lunch and go back to work afterwards.
that's how you gain a lot of weight.
Yeah,
If you're traveling over there.
you have healthier and happier employees also.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, funny enough, that story about singing Bohemian Rhapsody. I was in Ottawa visiting family about 2 weeks ago, and I was walking across the street to my aunt's and uncle's house, and this car slams on its brakes. This girl just starts waving at me, like, frantically. I'm just like, ah, no, did I cross at the wrong time? I don't know. And then she gets out of her car, and I'm like, ah, what did I do? And then she's just like, do you remember me? And it took me a second, and then I realized it was one of those girls from Chesky Krumlov who I sang Bohemian Rhapsody with.
Oh my.
And she was just driving down the street and recognized me. I was like, what are the chances? Like, she didn't even live in that part of town, but it was really cool.
Small world. So you can answer this question one of two ways, okay? Either an experience you learn from, or what would you tell somebody who, they watch the news, they're afraid to travel because of terrorists or plane crashes, or it costs too much, or whatever way you want to come at it. You answer however you want.
Okay. Well, okay. The first really difficult thing I had to overcome was actually not this past traveling experience, but when I went to the Czech Republic the first time, and I went with my class from Dal. We were all going out one night, I was like, well, I don't want to lose my only lifeline, so I'm going to leave my phone at home. We're all going to do the buddy system, and no one's going to leave without one another. That kind of thing. So anyway, we all go out and we're in Prague, and we're dancing. Anyway, the night goes on and everyone like leaves with their buddies, and my buddy wanted to stay out longer, but I was like very, very tired and had some tequila and was ready to go home. And so anyway, I was like, no, I know the way. First mistake, don't know the way. I'll go. And so anyway, I walked. I As soon as I left the bar, I walked the wrong direction. I know I did. I just said, "Does anyone speak English?" Like, just to a crowd of people, and they were like, I mean, you get the skeezy guys who are like, "Yes, we speak English," and I'm like, "Not you. I need chicks who speak English." And they're like, "Okay." So I ended up like befriending these two girls and a guy from Peru. And they're like, "Do you know the name of your hostel is that your like school's staying at?" And I was like, "No. Like I know where it is in the daylight, but in the nighttime, and after a little bit of tequila, it's just gone." They were like, "Well, you might not trust us, but we have a couch at our Airbnb." They were staring at an Airbnb. And they're like, "And you can sleep there so you can get your bearings." And I was like, "You know what? Yeah, that sounds like a good offer rather than just like roaming the streets." Anyway, I wake up, I could find my way home, but like I went out, I thought the apartment was much closer than it was.
And it was daytime, so you could find your way home. I think there's one real lesson here, and that is it doesn't matter where you are, don't trust the skeezy guy.
Yeah, don't trust the skeezy guy. Never. Especially packs of them. Always, if you're a chick, even if you're a dude, ask for the people who speak English that are like boys and girls.
Yeah. And just trust your gut.
Oh my gosh, it's always right.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I walk out and I'm like, "Ah, shit, I don't know where I am," or "Ah, darn."
You can say whatever you want. This is mature audiences only.
Okay. And so I walk out and I run into this flower shop across the apartment building, and I'm just like, "Anybody speak English?" Oh, is a great first line, Fiona.
Yeah.
And this guy with his pregnant wife in this flower shop buying flowers. How sweet. It's just like, "I do." And I'm like, "Dude, can you call me a taxi or something?" He's like, calls me a taxi. He's like, "It's going to be an hour." And I was like, "Well, I'm supposed to meet my class in 10 minutes, so I don't know." And I just said, "Well, I knew where, like, there's the famous old bridge in Prague called the Charles Bridge. I knew how to get home from the Charles Bridge or back to the hostel." And I said, "Okay, I see, like, the river right there." And I knew to walk along the river. I said, "How far to the Charles Bridge?" And he just laughs at me and goes, "Many kilometer." And I was like, "Great." So I start walking, and it took me about an hour and a half.
Oh boy.
And I didn't have a phone, and I was like, everyone thinks I'm dead. But no, they were all fine. I finally got back and was able to message them. They were out on a tour. I messaged them saying I was okay, and they were all very happy. And yeah, anyway, the moral of the lesson is bring your phone out.
Yeah. Use Google Maps. Don't be afraid to use your phone. And if you
Yeah,
don't have Wi-Fi or internet, download the maps. Google
yeah,
Maps is your friend.
yes, it is. And stow away extra cash.
And don't trust skeezy guys, and sheep have tails.
And don't trust easy guys. And people from Peru are awesome. Shout out. I don't even remember their names. I guess like that was also the scariest situation I got myself into. And honestly, it wasn't that bad. Like that was my first real experience of like having to overcome something. And it was actually a very like the whole time I was just like, Fiona. Like it wasn't a bad experience. And like I
Right.
think a lot of people are like, "You're nuts. You're crazy for doing that." And I'm like, "I don't think so. Fun."
But I would think that because you were with your class, that it kind of helped you ease your mind a little bit that there was somebody in the city that you knew.
Yeah,
Somehow, some way, you were going to get your way back.
yeah. If I didn't show up by like 5 p.m., I'm sure they would have sent out the Amber Alert.
Right. Right.
I knew where I was the whole time. That's what I would say about that. Mind you, I didn't know who, like, I physically knew I was okay, so that's nice.
So, if there was somebody that you knew that was afraid of traveling and they were afraid of, seeing the world or different cultures or whatever for various different reasons, what would you tell them?
I don't know. It's better to experience it than not to, I think. If you have the drive to travel at all, do it. Like, honestly, if I can do it, anyone can do it. Like, it's it's really eye-opening, and you just
Yeah, I don't want to give anybody the impression that it's easy and it's not scary. I mean, I've been to now 23 different countries, and
oh wow.
granted, there's a lot of people that have been to a lot less countries than I've been to. But every time I'm worried, I'm concerned. I shouldn't say worried. I'm concerned about something not happening, not
Yeah,
working right, whatever. But at the same time, it's also those experiences, those challenges that you meet and you learn from, and you get out of your comfort zone to some degree to learn how to be self-sufficient, and
yeah,
there's so much to learn out there that I find it amazing.
yeah. I think it's the moments where you have to give up. Like, for example, if you have a flight delayed and then you're not going to catch your next flight, and then it ruins your bus times and you can't figure it out. It sucks, but like, it's really out of your hands.
But you know
Um,
what Monique, and I say Monique right now, she's my fiance. By the time you hear this, she might be my wife. Who knows?
ah!
Um, um, but what we always come back to all the time, it's funny because like any couple, like any people traveling together, you have
Mhm.
your challenges. You have, whether you're traveling alone or with other people. To me, I find the best stories, oftentimes, the ones that people remember are the hard times, the challenges, the difficult
Oh
things
yeah.
that you went through end up being the best stories.
Oh, I'm
Everybody knows
absolutely.
about the Eiffel Tower and everything else, but not everybody knows about almost drowning in the Seine River, and you know,
Yeah,
like,
people don't
yeah.
know.
I'm just using
That's
that as a
almost drowned. Did Monique almost drown?
no. This was me when I was a kid. I went water skiing
Okay.
in the Seine.
Okay. I like how I
Maybe one day I'll have
automatically
my mother. I'll have my mother on here one day, and maybe she'll tell the
she
story.
awesome. Yeah.
But
And I think it's like it's the struggling times that make it the best, I don't know, experience, because you're like, I can do anything. It's a really fulfilling feeling being able to do stuff like that.
yeah, absolutely. I think there's
Yeah.
there's nothing like it. I mean, to each their own. Everybody's got their different passions and whatnot. But if you have any desire to see the world,
Yeah.
don't let your opinions be skewed by other people or TV or whatever you might hear. It's
Yeah.
not like that.
No, no. And you can find nice people anywhere you go.
And you can find assholes anywhere you go.
And yeah, no, that's very true. The skeezy guys are everywhere.
Yeah, probably even in Peru.
Yeah, yeah, probably. I mean, I don't know. I know those three people, those sweethearts.
So, okay, do you have any final thoughts? Any last impressions?
Um, I mean, not really. Like, a cow pooped on me once when I was over there. That was my cow
I'm gonna
story.
have to use that as the teaser right there.
Yeah,
A cow
I
pooped on me once.
it's true because this the back in Ireland, this New Zealand guy was over there, and he took care of cows.
You keep
And
talking about this New Zealand guy. Is there something we should know?
no, there's nothing you should know. I can hear Monique laughing in the background.
No, you can't. She's not here.
Oh darn! It's all in my head. In my head, I can hear her laughing. Anyway, he took me to a farm. I just wouldn't have been able to experience so much of Ireland if it wasn't for this person who could drive me around. And he took me to this cow farm
Yeah.
or cattle farm where I met, and I was helping him. Like, you have a bunch of cows come in, and to milk them they're hooked up to these machines, and like you're on a lower platform and the cows are kind of raised up probably like a foot, and you put these suction thingies on them. It's a very strange situation.
Oh, because you're milking the cow.
Yeah, you're milking them.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not just putting these on them for fun. There's a
Okay.
purpose, I promise.
Okay.
And so anyway,
We're not judging the Irish on this program.
he asked me to put some of them on their udders, these suction thingies, and I was like, sure. And I was like so happy, and I just like I was like laughing because it was just like, I love cows. And I look at him and he's just like, oh, no, 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 and can't even say anything. And already I can just feel it on my back and the back of my head. And it's just this cow letting it go. And it's going, and it was all down my back and all in my hair. And anyway, this poor guy was like, oh, this poor girl is she just came to milk a cow. I just started laughing. It was so funny. I thought it was just hilarious. It's just like, what do you do in that situation? You're like, I'm not even going to be mad right now. It's no point. It was a very funny situation. I can say that it's good for the hair.
I think I'll edit that part out. I'm sure people don't want to know that.
All right.
Okay, so Fiona Kidd, is there somewhere that you would like people to know about you, that you want to be found on the internet somewhere?
I guess my plug would be, I have my own kind of talk show, Tub Talks with Fiona, all spelt out, and that's on Instagram and YouTube. And so
both Instagram and YouTube. And what do you do on there? I know I've seen it, but tell everybody what that's about.
Yeah, I interview local Halifax people, and we drink local Halifax beer or booze, and we eat local food, and we do that in the bathtub. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's unique, folks. If you get a chance, you should definitely check it out. It's unique.
Thanks for perfect way to describe it. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and so Tub Talks with Fiona.
Well, I'll put the links on the show notes as well, so people can look that up.
Did you redo
it? So, thanks, Fiona, for being my very first guest on this podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank
you.
And
we'll talk soon.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Okay, everybody, that was it. I hope you enjoyed the very first episode of the Travel Tours podcast. Special thanks go out to Fiona, of course, and to all of you who are listening. Remember, if you or someone you know is an apprehensive adventurer, to check out thetraveltours.com/podcast. And finally, if you like this podcast, please consider subscribing and leave a comment, either good or bad, on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much for listening once again. Take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.